All right, joining us here in the Media Center at Las Vegas, the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, is your funny car winner at the 25th Annual NHRA 4-Wide Nationals, Austin Prock, who went 4.009 at 316 miles an hour to pick up his first win of the season, second straight in Las Vegas, 13th career win. And I know coming off a championship, you guys made some major changes. 3 races isn't that long. Of a drought, but I'm sure it felt like it. But to come back and have a race weekend like this after some early struggles, you guys dominated semis and finals. How good does this one feel?
It feels really good, man. Coming off the championship and then going to Bradenton for our, season test and the match race we do down there, and going to the final rounds and having a parts failure that kept us from holding the Wally, and then opening up in Gainesville, and just wasn't a great weekend. And we just struggled in Pomona, had a good weekend in Phoenix, but just couldn't put it all together. And it's like, man, you just want to hold one of these again. Like I said all last year, you got to celebrate these things like you're never going to win one again, because you don't know how long it's going to take. And we made a really nice run Q4, kind of got our stuff on the right track, and go up there for E1, and essentially got lucky, but we were better than everybody else in the other lanes, and then made an outstanding run in the semis. And I figured we'd just go up there and repeat that. And we had a little bit of misfortune on thrashing in the pits, made a few mistakes, and ended up with the result that we had. But once again, it was good enough than everybody else. So really proud of this win. It feels great to hold another one of these, especially the 25th anniversary. I remember when I was 25. I'm starting to get old now. But just an outstanding weekend for the team. We battled a lot of adversity all year long, and everyone just kept their heads down and stayed strong, and just keep picking at it. And when we fired this thing up in the finals, I could see on my dad's face something was wrong. And I was like, I better Cheeto chop the tree, because that's our only hope. And got a hold of it pretty good, and it was enough to win.
So your brother alluded on the starting line that you guys got away with one.
For sure.
What happened that equated to a got away with one?
We had a brain fart, essentially, setting the mags, fired it up in the pits, and they were X from being perfect, and we wanted to go one way with the mags, and they accidentally went the other way, so then they were really off. But she hung on. I think it had like 3 or 4 cylinders out down track, because that thing was doing anything but going straight. It left nice, and obviously slow, because all the ignition isn't set right, but it was good enough to win. And that's the only. I said this morning after E1, I said, if they're all ugly like this, but that blinking light's on, I don't care. As long as we're better than everybody else in the other lanes, and that's the name of drag racing. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You just got to be better than everyone else.
And a second question. In NFL circles, they always say that the good teams find a way to win, even on ugly days.
Yep.
Are you more of a believer of that than ever before?
I believe our team is great. We haven't had the success that we had last year, but we're still the same team, excluding one guy, and we got a young kid in there that shows a lot of potential. So, to get a win it's his first funny car win. To get a win for him and this whole Cornwall Tools team is really special. I think Kyle Larson won tonight, if my source was correct. So Mr. H, he doubled up today, and that's really special for all our partners. Sam. Yeah. Yeah. I got a brain fart. I call him Long Sam.
So obviously these first 3 races weren't the Procks forgot how to win by any chance. It was because your dad wanted to find the further edge of the envelope. Can you talk about how you deal with that as a driver, knowing that the end will justify the means, but in the meantime you've got to not get the wins that you were used to getting last year?
Yeah, I mean, we expected, we always expect to show up and win. Everyone always asks, what are your expectations? Well, we want to go set low ET every round, and we want to win every race. So when we're not doing that, we're trying to get to that point, and we've been far from that. Like I said, our race car's been really fast and really quick and fast as it was last year, or even quicker and faster. Just that consistency that we've been missing, and he's been pulling his hair out over it. All of us have. It's hard to keep your head up when things aren't going right, especially when your expectations are so high. So for all of us to come together and the first 3 qualifying runs, they weren't satisfying for us. Q4 showed a little bit of hope, and we just kept getting better and better. It's like E1, it was trucking right down there, but you sit around up there. We had that delay. The track got worse. It was really nasty down track, and that sure was fun to drive, though. That thing spun the tires at 500 feet, and I got to leg 13,000 horsepower black tracking for 500 feet. That was, you guys think doing a burnout in your street Camaro is cool. Doing a black track in a Chevrolet SS is even cooler with 13,000 horsepower. Yeah, it looked good for a while till it dropped cylinders, and it was kind of nasty.
Jerry Jordan kicking the tire slide net. Congratulations on your win. You were at the top end when Tony won. What was his reaction getting out of the car? What do you, and his first win in Top Fuel?
That was pretty cool. I think I was the first person he saw, and one of the reasons I'm at the point in my career is because of Tony Stewart. He gave me an opportunity when I was a lot younger than I am now, and allowed me to race out of his race shop at Tony Stewart Racing in Brownsburg, and got to race my midget out of there, and learn from some of the greats in the sport. Jimmy Carr and Ricky Warner and Michael Lewis. The names go on and on. Marty's out here. He works for Hoosier now, so it was cool to have him here. But I always had a gut feeling that when Tony won his first Top Fuel win, we were going to double up with him. So it was kind of cool to see that come true. Really proud of his team. Tony, he's outstanding in anything that he gets in, and all he needed was a race car close enough to win, and he could make up the rest. And he had a good race car under him today. Yeah. Force. He was talking about that last year, early in the spring, and I don't know, maybe one day it'll happen.
One more. What session was the issue that you were having trying to get down track? Which elimination run?
It started in Gainesville, and it's been ongoing since.
So it has never stopped. Oh, man, but bottom line, hey, you won this.
Yeah, they're working hard at it, and they're these race cars are very difficult to manage going up and down the racetracks, and when you're struggling with your setup, and then you're going from track to track, conditions to different conditions, it's really hard to pinpoint the problem, and for them to work through it today, and finally, we got to a final round and got the job done. That was really special.
Austin, as the champion, we had that marquee matchup this morning. We get you guys up there. Freiberger's on the mic, and he said that
I want to know who picked that, because there was like 4 marquee matchups this
morning. It was very tough. You want to know why I picked that? We have an algorithm because you're the champ, and champ's discretion, right? When we can get the champ on the stage to have a moment, why not?
Yeah,
and
I appreciate
the
that.
Tobler thing is also a byproduct.
Yeah.
But in terms of building the rivalries in the sport, like Freiberger said, he's been mentioning the Beckman car and trying to get a rise out of you a little bit. And you don't want to think about the other cars. You want to think about your car. But are you able to totally do that, not think about Paul Lee emerging and Caps, what he's going on? And as we try to create rivalries and make interesting storylines, how do you feel about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, there should be rivals in the sport, and I believe that we will have rivals in the sport, and there's probably people that don't like me out here, and there's probably people I don't like out here. But when I'm racing, you go up there, and I learned this last year, is you go up there and you function with no emotion. A rivalry is an emotional, connection, essentially. So for me, it's the easiest to just go up there and race myself and go up there and try and do the best job I can do every time. It doesn't matter what they do. All I'm worried about is me going up there and doing the same job every time and trying to be within a 60-40 range on the tree. And if I can do that, I'm happy with that, because I know this Prock rocket underneath me, it can carry that. If we get picked off and I race like that, out here, it's like, well, we had a good package, but, you're not going to get beat very often doing that. So Lanny McClizzy taught me that last year halfway through the season, and I'm riding with it. I love it. It just keeps it simple, and that's, I said this last year. This sport is it's a very few simple tasks. It takes professionals to do it, but in the driver's seat, I have a few things to do before I stand on the gas, and I need to be in the most perfect, clear mindset that I could possibly be. And when I stand on the gas, I got to react to what it does. these things want to do anything but go straight down the track. But if you're thinking about what it's going to do when you stand on the gas, you're going to make a mistake. You guys saw me in Q2. I almost crashed that thing. I've never looked like that in my life, but I rolled up there and I felt like I was a little bit aimed right, more than normal, and this thing left, and we were trying some things, trying to sort this Prock rocket out, and it left, and it was ugly. And me, I don't lift, until I need to lift. And I was hanging on for dear life. I've made runs like that, and it's hooked up and gone right down the track, and then you're a hero. But when you do that and you hang on to it too long, and then the parachutes are pointing at the wall and the headlights are on the Chevrolet SS are pointing at the center line, you kind of look goofy. But you live and you learn, and that was the first time that thing got away from me. Out of how many runs have I made in this car? So I learned from it, and keep doing the same thing.
Austin, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
12.
Yeah. I had this thing sideways a few times a day down track for sure. First round. Yeah.
Austin, thanks a lot. Congratulations on your
Cool.
win today.
Thank you.